are the keys to success for the Orlando Magic this season and why Jalen Suggs is at the heart of everything once again. We'll get to that on today's Locked On Magic.
You are Locked On Magic, your daily Orlando Magic podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And you are indeed Locked On Magic. Today is August 25th. It will be August 26th, 2024. My name is Philip Rosenreich. I'm the senior writer over at OrlandoMagicDaily.com. Of course, follow me on Twitter at PhilipRR_OMD. On today's episode of Locked On Magic, we're going to go over the keys to a successful season for the Orlando Magic, what the Magic have to do to accomplish their big goals, starting with Jalen Suggs, why he is the central piece to the Magic this season. We'll get to that coming up here in just a moment. But first, we want to thank you again for making Locked On Magic part of your day every day, no matter when you listen to us, whether it's first thing in the morning, whether it's right when we upload. We truly appreciate you making Locked On Magic part of your day every day. Remember, there's a great Locked On podcast covering every single team in the NBA. Just search for Locked On and the team you're looking for, the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day. Today's episode of Locked On Magic is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Download Gametime today. What time is it? Game time. All right, now that that's out of the way, we're getting to it. We are a little bit more than a month away, about 5 weeks away now from the beginning of training. Might be 4 weeks, actually. I can't count. But we are getting very, very close to the start of training camp. And we're beginning to see what the sort of battle lines are, or what the kind of decisive factors are for the Magic this season. We already know what the goal is. Players said it the day after Game 7 back in May. Paolo Banchero reiterated it a couple of weeks ago in New York for the Fanatics Fest. The goal is to be one of the top teams in the East. This team believes they can get home court advantage. This team believes they can be one of the top teams in the Eastern Conference. Now, there's a lot of skepticism about that. There's a lot of things that have to go right for the Orlando Magic to be that kind of team, to be a team that is a major factor in the Eastern Conference this season. They're close. Do not get it wrong. They are very, very close. But there's a lot of uncertainty because this team is so young. And frankly, a lot of this uncertainty for me starts with Jalen Suggs. It's the last big unresolved issue of the offseason because the Magic are going to give Jalen Suggs a new contract. It's not a matter of if, but when. And it's not really a matter of if or when. It's a matter of how much. And at this point, we have some ideas about what Jalen Suggs can be. But really, after two disappointing seasons, after 2 seasons where he struggled with injuries, last year was the first year that we got a really good glimpse of what Jalen Suggs looks like. It was undoubtedly a successful season. Like, don't get me wrong. I give Jalen Suggs the money, whatever that amount ends up being. He's not a max player. I'll go that far. But he is going to get paid very handsomely. Certainly upper 20s at minimum, lower 30s at most. He's in the 27 to $32 million per year range. I know that sounds big, but that's what you pay for a core player. Suggs was the team's heart and soul, and obviously he made all defensive team, but the place that he really took a leap up was with his three-point shooting. He shot 39.7% from three last year after shooting 21.4 and 32.7% in his first 2 seasons. He is one of the top defenders in the league. There's no getting around that. He showed in playing 70-plus games for the first time in his career, 75 games to be exact, actually. He showed what he looks like when he's reliable. Of course, we only have 1 year of evidence, 1 year of consistency, and that's not consistency, that's 1 year of him at that level. We exited the playoffs understanding and arguing, I know I argued it, that the Magic needed a playmaker. That the thing that they were missing was one more player who could drive an attack, someone who could work on the ball, but not demand the ball and take it away from Paolo Banchero and Franz Wagner. And at least the way the Magic used Jalen Suggs last year, that's not who he was. Jalen Suggs had a fairly low usage rate last year, a surprisingly low usage rate, in fact. He was not much of a driver. He's averaged only 4 assists per game in one season in his career, and that was his rookie season when he was on the ball. His assists dropped to 2.7 per game last year. And while his turnovers have dropped with it, that's really more of a sign that the Magic had him off the ball more and more. According to data from seconds, last year, he only had a 19.7% usage rate. Essentially, if everybody's even, they got 20%. Jalen Suggs is not used as a primary scorer. And again, this was all by design. It was the Magic attempting to rein in some of the wild drives where Suggs would throw his body into players and miss at the rim. They're trying to rein those in and say, hey, your role is 3 and D, essentially. And he's very good at D. And last year, he was very good at 3. Again, 39.7%. He shot 40+% on catch and shoot threes. He was really good from 3 last year. And essentially, anything that the Magic want to do starts with Jalen Suggs copying that 3-point success. But we know the Magic need an extra playmaker. They need a third playmaker, and Kentavious Caldwell-Pope ain't it. I'm excited for what KCP is going to bring. I think he's going to be a great addition to this team. KCP ain't it. He's a movement shooter. He's a solid catch and shoot 3-point shooter. He is a defender. He is not a driver, although there's some people who think he might add that part back to his game with the Magic. The Magic need more than that. And so now it feels like so much of the Magic season hinges on Jalen Suggs being able to fill this point guard role. This role that the Magic let him dabble in and dip his toe into the water, but really kept him from playing to a fuller degree. Now, after the All-Star break, his assists did go up. So averaged a little bit more than 3 assists per game after the All-Star break. That is a sign that, okay, they trusted him a little bit more. Those controls, those guardrails that they maybe put to really focus his impact started to come off as the team evolved his role. Remember, Markelle Fultz is no longer in the starting lineup. Anthony Black's no longer in the starting lineup. They put Gary Harris in there. Jalen Suggs played the role that he's playing this year, last year. But what the Magic may need to do is to increase the responsibility of that role. And of course, if that's the thought, Jalen Suggs is probably right to say, okay, let's shelve the contract. Let me play out the year and see what I'm worth at the end of the season. That's hanging in the background of all of this, of course. Jalen Suggs, though, has shown us what he can do and what a successful Jalen Suggs season looks like. He's got to copy that again. Again, like this is going to be my theme throughout most of the season. The Magic have to prove they can do it again. At the very least, prove they can do it again. They need to get better. Again, don't get me wrong on that. They need to get better. That's what this episode's about. They need to get better, but baseline success failure is show us you can do this again. And that goes for each individual player, and that goes for Jalen Suggs. Show us that you can be what you were last year again at minimum, but also take this important next step because the Magic still need a point guard. They still need a ball handler. They still need an organizer. And it feels very much like the Magic believe Suggs can be that guy. They invested in their team as if they believe Suggs can be that guy. Because again, the Magic are going to pay Jalen Suggs. It's not a matter of if, it's when. It's when and how much. He is going to be in a Magic uniform for a very long time. Or at least under contract to be in a Magic uniform for a very long time. Things change in the NBA very fast. Suggs has to show this year that he can take on those point guard duties. Because that's what will elevate the Magic from the 5 seed to the 3 to the 2. And yes, competing for the top seed in the Eastern Conference, competing in the Eastern Conference Finals, competing for championships. It's what Marcus Smart did in Boston, and that's the best kind of career trajectory we have for Jalen Suggs at the moment. Better or worse, that's the comparison that everyone's using. I think it's apt. Jalen Suggs has a lot to prove, and a lot of the Magic season hinges on his development. So what else do the Magic need to have a successful season? We'll go into a couple of those things. We'll dip our toes into a couple of those things coming up here in just a moment. But first, today's episode of Locked On Magic is brought to you by our friends over at Gametime. Look, it is the summer. There's not a lot of basketball going on. Football is starting to come back. Saturday, of course, is the first college football games. Thursday, UCF playing New Hampshire. You can go check that out. If you want tickets to these games, to concerts, to Orlando City games, to whatever, Gametime has your ticket. I've got several price alerts for shows going on before the Magic season starts. I'm keeping my eye on the tickets, and Gametime is where I go. Gametime has this great new feature called Gametime Picks that makes getting tickets for your favorite live events even easier. Gametime Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. All you have to do is check it out. You can go check out, I'm eyeing tickets for Australian Pink Floyd at the Dr. Phillips Center later this week. Or if you're trying to get to the UCF game and you can't find tickets, Thursday night, Gametime has you covered. Gametime has so many great features. Our customer service is amazing. They have the seat view that shows you what your seat will look, what the view from your seat will look like before you buy the tickets. They have the little flames that tell you when there's hot deals on the board to get the best prices for tickets in the building. It's such an easy to use app. Even the website is easy to use. I'm an old person. I still like websites. Gametime has you covered for everything. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Again, create an account, redeem code LOCKEDONNBA. That's LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off. Terms do apply, but check it out today and redeem with code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off. Download Gametime today. What time is it? It's Gametime. We want to thank you for making Locked On Magic your first listen of the day. For your second listen, enjoy the Locked On NBA podcast. There is no offseason in the NBA, and Locked On NBA provides daily basketball analysis from national and local experts in 30 minutes or less. No one keeps you as informed and entertained as Locked On NBA, available on YouTube or wherever you get podcasts. It's all part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. So obviously the Orlando Magic have a lot they want to accomplish this year. Like it's exciting because yes, the Magic were very good last year. And yes, the Magic accomplished a lot last year. I know some people would like to say, oh, they just made the playoffs. So like, no, they accomplished a lot. They made some major strides last year. Now it's about what the next steps are. And obviously that next step is home court advantage. It's winning a playoff series. It's getting to the conference finals. Like you see the material steps that they have to take. And look, I want to repeat this. This is a multi-year journey. Just like getting to the playoffs has been a multi-year journey. Getting to the finals is a multi-year journey. Remember, the 2009 Magic made the playoffs for the first time as an 8 seed in 2007. They won their first playoff series in 2008, got to the second round, got smoked by the Detroit Pistons again. 2009, they're in the NBA Finals. It's going to take some learning and some experience to get where the Magic want to go. And yeah, it's going to take some things breaking the right way, like Kevin Garnett being injured or whatever the case may be. So what do the Magic have to do to accomplish these goals? What are the kind of things that are going to be huge factors for this team? Well, there are the obvious ones. They have to be healthy again. They were relatively healthy last year. They had that slow stretch in January where everybody was sick. But for the most part, the Magic were healthy. Jalen Suggs played 75 games. Yeah, Wendell Carter missed his normal amount of games, but Jonathan Isaac hit 50 plus, and we're expecting him to hit more this year. The bigger factor, though, is going to be whether the Magic can score enough. Orlando last year finished 25th in the league in offensive rating, I believe, or 22nd in the league in offensive rating at 112.9 points per 100 possessions. no playoff team, no team that made the playoffs had a worse offensive rating than the Magic. Some of this is, yes, the Magic shooting is just really, really bad. Franz Wagner needs to make more threes. We'll talk about him later in the week. All those things. Well, the Magic added Kentavious Caldwell-Pope as a shooter. They're expecting Paolo Banchero to improve as a three-point shooter. Yes, they're expecting Franz Wagner to bounce back a little bit as a three-point shooter. Even in the low 30s would be enough. They're expecting Jalen Suggs to repeat his three-point shooting from last year. Jonathan Isaac now has a full summer to get better as an offensive player in addition to his amazing defense. They add Jet Howard full-time to the roster. Anthony Black improved dramatically as a shooter throughout the year last year. Didn't make as many threes in Summer League, but looked more confident as a shooter in Summer League as well. And then Tristan da Silva is a confident shooter as well, as he looked really good in Summer League from the NBA three-point line. So the Magic have to be better offensively. I would argue that the biggest factor for the Magic offensively is actually about turnovers. If the Magic can reduce their turnovers, they are going to be in business. They finished last year, I believe, 28th or 29th in turnover rate. They turned the ball over a lot now. They got a lot of it back defensively because their defense is just so frenetic and so good. That was a huge superpower of theirs, as they essentially eliminated their turnover deficit by forcing turnovers themselves. So what happens if they're not giving away possessions? What happens if they're not turning the ball over as much? To me, honestly, this is the biggest factor for the Magic. And this is about maturity. And yes, this is about not having a true point guard sometimes. But this is about maturity. As you get better, as you get older, as you get more experienced, you're not going to make the same mistakes. And so the hope for the Magic is that as they continue to grow, yes, I expect some mistakes to be made. I'm not expecting the Magic to be like amazing with turnovers, but to be out of the bottom 10, just getting that 2 or 3, maybe 4 extra possessions, even if you go 2 for 4 on those, that's 4 more points. That's 6 more points, maybe. Those are opportunities lost. Gain back those opportunities. You're going to score a few more points. And again, like in a standings that's going to be split between 3 games, between 2 and 7, 4 more points might get you an extra win. Like, that's the deal. Like, honestly, like there's a strong argument the Magic actually underachieved last year. And as exciting as that was, turnovers is a big reason why. If Orlando can reduce their turnovers, they will be in very, very good shape. Now, the other thing that I would note, and I think I've noted this on the show recently, the Magic have to win big games. They have to prove themselves in big games. And look, they won plenty of big games. Black Friday win over the Celtics in the in-season tournament, must-win game. They showed up. They showed out. One of the great wins of the season. In Denver, undermanned. Paolo Banchero with his first career triple-double. They showed up. They beat up that Denver team. They swept Denver last year, so they got 2 wins. They beat the Bucks twice at home. They beat the Knicks on a Martin Luther King Day matinee. Again, Jalen Brunson did not play in that game. And the Magic were undermanned that game on top of that. But the Magic has shown they can beat good teams. But Orlando, for as dominant as they were at home at 29-12, they were 18-23 on the road last year. That was the worst mark among all playoff teams last year. So again, we're talking about the Magic stepping up to a higher plane. And the reason I highlighted those stretches in December and January where they're playing a lot of playoff teams in a row, this is an area where they struggled. Orlando was 28-7 last year against teams against teams with records below 500. Only the Boston Celtics, New York Knicks, and Denver Nuggets topped that mark. Orlando feasted on bad teams. They got to copy that again. That part's not going to be easy. They got to copy that somehow. But Orlando's got to be at least 500 against teams above 500. The Magic last year went 19-28 against teams with records better than 500. 19-28. That's not terrible, but only the Chicago Bulls had a worse record against winning teams among teams that reached the postseason. So that includes play-in teams. Again, Orlando can beat good teams. There is not a game Orlando enters this season that they should feel they cannot win. Yes, there are some rest disadvantage games. There are some schedule losses. There's always that in the course of a season. But the Magic have to find a way to win big games. They got to win some of these national TV games. When the pressure is on you, when the spotlight's on you, you got to win those games. if not for perception as much as anything else. But you got to prove that you can beat good teams over and over again. Now, again, they did that to some extent last year. Again, the record says that they struggled in those games a little bit. You want to be about 500. If you're a little bit under 500, that's going to be fine. These are good teams. You're not supposed to beat good teams all the time. But you got to beat them fairly regularly. And you got to beat them at least a 500 level so that you're not having to be insanely good against the bad teams. You're going to drop a few games against bad teams. Magic dropped 7 last year. They dropped 2 late in the season that were really killer. Orlando beat Cleveland twice. They beat New York twice. They beat Indiana twice. They beat Milwaukee twice. They swept Denver. They beat Minnesota. They beat the Lakers. They beat the Suns. They can beat good teams. But again, this is the theme of the season. It's about consistency. Can you play at that high of a level for an extended period of time? Can you do it year over year over year? And, as we get closer to the season, I will repeat this theme. This is my driving theme of the season. This year is about consistency. Can the Magic do it again? That's what the year's about. That's what we're going to be talking about all year long. Can the Magic do it again? And that's what beating good teams is about. It's about consistency. It's about doing it night in, night out, being an elite team throughout the whole 82 games. That's what the Magic have to prove to us. They were elite for 65 to 70 games last year. Very good team. Not taking that away. Feast on the bad teams, split your games with the good teams. You'll be set up to have a top seed in the Eastern Conference. It's that simple. We did get some news on Friday that is worth noting. The future of the Orlando Magic on their local TV broadcast got a little clearer. I'll clear some of that up and talk a little about it coming up here in just a moment. But first, today's episode of Locked On Magic is brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. You've heard us talk a lot about FanDuel. It's America's #1 sportsbook. Well, we have something a little different for you. Now through September 22nd, all FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Then with the YouTube TV base plan, you'll be able to watch every single regular season Sunday afternoon out-of-market game. All you need is a Google account and a current form of payment, and you can cancel any time. The NFL is coming up. They'll be off this weekend to get ready for week 1. There's some big games there. There's some big games in college football coming up this weekend too, including the Thursday night opening game from the UCF Knights, 41.5 point favorites now over New Hampshire with an over-under of 63.5. You want to get in on that action. UCF hosting, I believe they're the Wildcats of New Hampshire. Going to be a big game. Going to be a great time at the Bounce House. Let's say you're looking forward to Saturday's big game, Florida versus Miami. Go Gators. Got to get that out of the way now because probably after this game, us Gator fans will not have much to cheer for. Miami, 2.5 point favorites going to the Swamp to take on the Gators. And just out of curiosity, if you're like me, Northwestern's 2.5 point favorites over Miami of Ohio. It's going to be an anti-Miami weekend for us here in the Locked On Magic household. 2.5 point favorites for Northwestern. Never bet on Northwestern games. Those are always bad bets. Check out all the great odds for football season and look ahead to basketball season. Heat are 1 point favorites over the Magic for opening night, or 1.5 point favorites over the Magic for opening night. Something to keep in mind. Just visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to download America's #1 sportsbook. There was a little bit of NBA business minutia that got announced over the weekend or on Friday, I believe. The NBA, Diamond Sports Group, the owners of Bally Sports, of the Bally Sports Regional Sports Network, announced that they had reached an agreement with the NBA and NHL to broadcast the 2024-25 season. Additionally, announcing that the Dallas Mavericks and New Orleans Pelicans agreed to some type of deal to terminate their contract early, and they will be available over the air in their local markets. There's a lot of confusing things about the bankruptcy and what's going on with the Bally Sports Family Regional Sports Network and Diamond Sports. But here is the basics of what you need to know. The Orlando Magic have not yet announced their local television plans, but this agreement would suggest that the Orlando Magic will be back on Bally Sports Florida. At the very least, without another further announcement, the Magic will be on Bally Sports Florida for this season, broadcasting all the non-exclusive national television games. There are a few this year with the 5 national TV games. The 3 TNT games, the Knicks, the Thunder, and I think there's one more that's on TNT. Those will only be on TNT. Every other game will then be on Bally Sports Florida. So 75 plus games will be broadcast on Bally Sports Florida. This news, when I tweeted it out, has been largely met with disgust because Bally Sports is not super popular. One of the reasons they are in bankruptcy is that their app has been kind of a disaster, as well as they have struggled to get carriage fees with major cable companies such as Comcast Xfinity, which is available in Orlando, but not as widespread as Spectrum, and YouTube TV, among other issues. The NBA, I think, is certainly hoping, and the way that at least I have read the reports on this deal, it does sound like the NBA just kind of is saying, this is your it year. Like, you either figure out your bankruptcy or we're walking with all of our teams, or, we have a contract set that will allow us to stay if you get out of bankruptcy. We're obviously getting close to season. The NBA wants their games on local TV. That is a part of their revenue. That is a part of how they make their money. They want resolution on this. The Bally Sports issue is a big one. I have long suspected, and now we're getting to the speculative part of this. I have long suspected the NBA, they want their games on TV, and I think they will always allow their teams to partner with local television markets. So the Suns are on like the local My 65, whatever their My 65 is. The Jazz actually created their own streaming service, which has been a really interesting experiment to watch play out. But I think ultimately what the NBA is hoping to do is to take League Pass and bundle these regional sports network rights the same way MLS has bundled their rights with Apple. I think they want to take it to Amazon or take it to some streamer to kind of park this product and maybe take a cut of the revenue or new subscriptions that are because of their League Pass or of their games. League Pass has gotten its share of headaches. I've not enjoyed my League Pass experience all the time. I enjoy it better than I do when I buy it through cable, but there's some rough spots here. But I think the NBA is looking to kind of use their regional sports networks and use their local TV rights as another revenue stream in their TV deal. Again, the new TV deal kicks in next year, will be after, not this coming season, but the season after, the 2026 season. That's when Amazon and NBC will get into the game and be part of this process. NBC's handled the Olympics really, really well. I'd be curious if Peacock would be in play to get some local NBA TV rights as well. But it's unlike MLS, which I think made a mistake doing what they've done and how they've packaged their TV rights, not allowing it to be aired locally because MLS is still a growing league. I think the NBA will always make sure that, on a team by team basis, at least, that games will be available on over the air TV. So again, might remember back in the day, way back in the day, in some cases, the Magic used to air half their games on Sunshine Network, which became Bally Sports Sun, and then half their games on the Orlando Magic Television Network, which would air in Orlando on WKCF Channel 18, the CW, what's now the CW 18. An arrangement like that is very, very possible in the near future if Diamond Sports eventually does dissolve because of their bankruptcy. For now, Diamond has prioritized paying the NBA. It's been something that's, this has been something we've been following for several years now. They went into bankruptcy in 2023, I believe, or 2022, 2023, somewhere in there. We have been following this story for a very, very long time. It has injected some uncertainty into the TV atmosphere, but to the NBA's credit, they have been a priority creditor or a priority payment for Diamond Sports Group and to continue their business as they go through bankruptcy. And so they essentially, what you need to know about what was announced on Friday is Diamond Sports Group came to an agreement with the NBA to keep NBA games on their regional sports network. And so the teams, there's 13 NBA teams on Bally Sports networks, including Orlando, including the Magic. Those teams will continue on Bally Sports for this season. After this season, it's kind of back up in the air again. If Diamond Sports is still in bankruptcy, the NBA can walk away. They have a termination clause, it appears, that would allow them to walk away again. Or there's a continuation deal also in place that if they're out of bankruptcy, they can continue with Bally Sports beyond this season. So still a little bit of confusion there, but it does appear that the Magic will be back on Bally Sports Florida this year, for better or for worse. I still use cable. I'm an old person, so I've always had Bally. Having Bally is a requirement for my streaming needs because I have to watch Magic games. But yeah, I get people who are frustrated with the Bally Sports experience and what they have not provided, and their company going through bankruptcy. They've had a lot of struggles to try and give a product that consumers will be happy with and distributes the leagues the way that the leagues want to be distributed. So probably back on Bally Sports Florida. Again, I want to remind people of this. People have asked me about this. The Magic's broadcast crew, Jeff Turner, David Steele, Dante Marcatelli, Kendra Douglas, the Magic provide them. They will go wherever the Magic park their television rights. So it's happened last year with, I think, one team where they left Bally mid-season and started doing over-the-air broadcasts. Essentially, aside from finding a place to park the production and paying for the production, the consumer does not see a material difference. But yes, Bally Sports has had its struggles. I know a lot of fans have complained about Bally Sports and have complained about the experience, but the Magic will probably be on Bally Sports Florida for at least one more year. But that's going to do it for me today. I want to thank you all again for listening to today's episode of Locked On Magic. Of course, find me on Twitter at @PhilipR_OMD. Subscribe to the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, TuneIn, Himalaya, Google Play, Spotify, Odyssey, and all the Filming Channel podcasts to your podcast-enabled listening device. For the latest on the Orlando Magic, be sure to check out OrlandoMagicDaily.com. You can find us there on Twitter at OMagicDaily. And for even more Orlando Magic content, be sure to check out my Patreon page, the Orlando Magic Hub, at patreon.com/Orlando Magic Hub. Before I go, a big congratulations to Lake Mary Little League for winning the Little League World Series. Awesome game. Awesome job, guys. So happy that you guys are bringing the Little League World Series back to Central Florida. Ticker tape parade, I'm sure, is coming. And Lake Mary, I'm sure they'll get their day at Disney. But very, very awesome to see Lake Mary bring home the title. Congratulations to Lake Mary Little League for winning the Little League World Series. Now that you're done listening to me, you can check out the Locked On NBA podcast, where the season never ends, providing national expertise with a local perspective. You can find the link to Locked On NBA in the description, so you don't need to search. It's all part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. That's going to do it for me today, though. I want to thank you all again for listening to today's episode of Locked On Magic. On our next episode, we'll talk about what Franz Wagner needs to do to become an NBA All-Star. Not as far as you think, and it's not just about his shooting. We'll get to that on our next episode of Locked On Magic, but until then, for Orlando Magic Daily and Locked On Magic, this has been Philip Rossman-Reich. We'll see you all again next time for another episode of Locked On Magic.